Drama in the music industry is nothing new, and certainly some heavy metal bands know this firsthand. Some artists might just throw a tantrum at each other without hurting others, bandmates will fist fight, but there are others where they take the band under the bus and quit their careers as a band. These are some of the most iconic and explosive feuds in rock and heavy metal history. In the early days of Metallica, and prior to the release of Kill 'Em All, Metallica in 1983 was preparing to record their debut album. And amongst the lineup, they had a young Dave Mustaine who was no stranger to violence when drinking alcohol. It's been noted by current band members that Dave would be the worst kind of drunk. This is something Dave has also admitted to. On the morning of April 11th, after a gig in New York, Mustaine was fired by James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich. Even though Dave Mustaine was known for being an excellent guitar player, he was a really difficult person to be around, especially while intoxicated. Dave was fired before the band recorded the album, and in his place they recruited Kirk Hammett to join the band. Metallica then went on to record one of the biggest metal albums of all time. But not everything was bad news for Mustaine. Today, it's a normal feature of Mustaine to be heard talking about his former days in Metallica, as it's kind of become one of his main topics during interviews. Next up, we have the legendary Guns N' Roses, who saw a lot of success after Appetite for Destruction in 1987. Pointing to one reason about why the band broke up is pretty difficult, because there were so many issues to choose from. For starters, every member came from different musical backgrounds. Axl liked Elton John and Freddie Mercury, which is why there were so many rock ballads on Guns N' Roses albums. Slash, on the other hand, was more into heavy metal, Izzy was more of a classic rock guitar player, and Duff brought the punk element to the band. So this could be one of the many reasons. Another reason for their breakup probably has to do with Axl and Slash. This is because Slash appeared as a guest on one of Michael Jackson's songs. Normally, this would only boost a musician's career, but this was when Michael Jackson was accused of fooling around with underage boys. Axl had been abused as a child, and he just could not tolerate it, and this set grudges between him and Slash. One final reason might have to do with managers, since there were a ton of them, and one of them might have introduced a problem into the band by dividing the band in the early 90s. After Doug Goldstein eventually divided the band, he took sides with Axl since he appeared to be the only member in the band not to do drugs. This would later affect the band and just make everything worse. Ozzy Osbourne's drug abuse and clashes with guitarist Tony Iommi just left the band in shambles. A revolving door of band members sadly became the hallmark sign of their tumultuous history. Black Sabbath pioneered heavy metal and was bound to do great things, until the band delved into the darker side of drugs, and they parted ways with Ozzy after Technical Ecstasy, an album that wasn't received very well. This incident caused Ozzy to just drink and do drugs even harder, and on April 27th of '79, the band just had to fire Ozzy Osbourne. The band wasn't in the greatest shape either, but eventually it was Bill Ward who had to let him know he was officially out of the band, and Bill notes this as one of the hardest decisions he's ever had to make when it comes to anything regarding the band. Tommy Lee and Vince Neil tarnished the band's name quite a few times, which eventually boiled over into a fistfight between the two of them. According to sources, Tommy Lee would often body shame Vince by calling him names such as Fat Boy, which Lee has admitted to this, but according to him, it was just intended as harmless jokes. On the other hand, it was reported that Vince was pretty frustrated with the whole thing and eventually decided to fight Tommy Lee. Some reports noted that after an altercation, Vince got into a serious fight with Lee, knocking him over his drum kit, making Lee fall hard onto one of his cymbals, which caused him to break one of his ribs. This was later denied by Lee, but who knows? The band at one time was called the Drug Scouts of America. Truth or fiction, their rivalry affected the band in many ways, as all of them had been under serious scrutiny. Everyone but Mick, that is, who is currently suing their former bandmates over elderly abuse. Iron Maiden was a band that rose to fame for all the right reasons of being a super talented, extraordinary metal band during the era of the new wave of British heavy metal. The feud started when Iron Maiden members expressed their discomfort. While they were promoting their tour, apparently they didn't like the fact that the festival had to be all about Ozzy, given the name of the festival being Ozfest. According to Sharon Osbourne, Bruce Dickinson was allegedly complaining backstage about how his band is in no need for a teleprompter or a reality show to be considered a legitimate band. Given that Ozzy is a public character, this only enraged Sharon Osbourne, and it went all downhill from there. Thank you so much for watching this video. Leave a comment below and don't forget to subscribe, and check out the products in the description box below. Follow and like our videos if you like them. Remember everybody, stay metal.